Just one session on day 3 and Australia's ultimate nightmare came to be true. Australia were bowled out for 91 and it continued their nightmare when it comes to visiting India in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Ever since 2008, Australia's record in India has been nothing short of a nightmare, because this innings defeat has put them on the back foot, and now all the talk of a 4-0 whitewash is becoming much more evident now. So in Nagpur, none of the Australian batters managed to score a 50, with Marnus Labuschagne being the highest with 49. On the other hand, in the second innings of Australia's response to a 223-run deficit, they were simply blown away by the brilliance of Ravichandran Ashwin and by the guile of Ravindra Jadeja. So, what is Australia's horror stat that has been plaguing them in India? So, to sum up the Nagpur test, Australia were bundled out for 91 just in one session. Imagine, just after the stroke of the lunch hour when they resumed at 12:05, tea was extended and within 5 minutes after the extension, they were bundled out. So in a sense, just about 86 minutes or close to 2 hours, they were bundled out for 91. So this is their second lowest total. Australia, if you look at it, when they have played India, the second lowest total, which was behind the 83 that they suffered against India in Melbourne in 1981. You'll remember that 83 very well, because Kapil Dev had taken 5 wickets bowling with an injured groin. So Australia continue their worst run in India, and remember, when they were at their peak in 2004, they got bowled out for 93 in Mumbai. That was in 2004. Now 19 years later, all out for 91. What was the margin of defeat? The heaviest margin of defeat that they had in Nagpur is by an innings and 132 runs, which is the third worst that they have ever had in the history of Test cricket that they played in India, because their heaviest victory loss, their heaviest margin of loss was innings and 219 runs, which they suffered in Kolkata in 1997-1998. You will all remember that match very well, because Mohammad Azharuddin had scored 163 and India managed 633. VVS Lakshman, Navjot Singh Sidhu, Rahul Dravid all had hit brilliant 50s. But unfortunately, Australia got bundled out for a very low score and they lost by an innings and 219 runs. Then in the 2012-13 edition, when Australia were already trailing 0-1 down in the series, they lost by an innings and 135 runs in Hyderabad. Incidentally, in the first innings, Australia made 237 for 9, declared. It did not make any difference, because Murli Vijay and Cheteshwar Pujara had notched up a brilliant partnership and Australia never got going. Ashwin and Jadeja, the spin twins, combined together and Australia suffered an innings and 135 run loss. 10 years later, history repeated itself yet again. Ashwin and Jadeja working in tandem. Ashwin with 8 wickets in the match, Jadeja with 7 wickets in the match, including a 5-wicket haul, plus a century from Rohit Sharma. Akshar Patel's 50 and Jadeja's 50 also ensured Australia lost by an innings and 132 runs in Nagpur. So how has the nightmare been prolonged now? They have lost both their tests at Jamta in 2008 as well as now in 2023. You would say they had won in 2004, right? But that was a different stadium. That was the VCA stadium in the heart of Nagpur. Now, outside of Nagpur, they have lost both the matches at the VCA stadium in Jamta. Only one win since 2008. In the past 15 years, Australia have won only once in India. 2008, they had drawn in Bangalore, but they lost in Mohali. They drew again in Delhi, but they lost in Jamta. 2010, lost in Mohali and Bengaluru. 2013, they lost in Chennai. They lost in Hyderabad. They lost in Mohali and they lost in Delhi. Then in 2017, they had won on a ranked turner in Pune, but on a much better pitch here in Nagpur, they lost. They lost in Bangalore, drew in Ranchi and lost in Dharamshala. Now, what is going to be Australia's status in the coming 3 tests? Because once they go down in India, they tend to go down and spiral downwards very, very rapidly. And to compound matters for them, they have not won the Border Gavaskar Trophy since 2014-15. Remember, they lost in 2016-17 in a very tight series, which they lost by 1-2. Then they have lost by the same margin, 1-2, in both the 2018-19 series and the 2020-2021 series. What was Pat Cummins' admission after that? Why did they lose so badly? Very frank admission from Pat Cummins in that should have scored 100 more runs. Starting here is tough. But he added that 3 to 4 batters had already gotten their eye in and they should have scored big. When you do get in, got to score big. Who scored a 50 in the Nagpur test for Australia? The answer is 0. Marnus Labuschagne with 49, and the rest of the batting cut a very, very sorry figure indeed. Heading into the test in Delhi on 17th, Australia have got plenty of things to worry about. India, on the other hand, one more win or even 2 more wins and they will seal their spot in the World Test Championship final. For Australia, if they lose all 4 tests, they have to pray that Sri Lanka somehow does not win 2 tests against New Zealand, because if they do, Australia are eliminated. So there is plenty to think about for Pat Cummins and Australia heading into Delhi. One hopes that they can stage a fight back, but it looks very, very tough looking at the nature of the loss that they suffered in Nagpur. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this video. We'll be back with more updates on Sports Today. Press the like, comment and share button. We are also there on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you.